to one more chapter of tapping into the energy of life. Today, we're going to be talking about addictions and what are they, how to cope with them, and our personal experiences with different ones, like sugar or smoking or alcoholism. And also, the first thing to start with is that there are many, many types of addictions. So just take whatever it's useful for you. And there are emotional ones, to relationships, to substances, to situations, to work, to so many things. So we want to share with you a few of our insights. So to start with, I'd like to share with you that there are a few authors who are really relevant for this subject that I really like. And so there's one who is Gabo Mate, and he's a doctor that works with people with addictions and trauma. And his insight, his perspective on addiction, it was very like revealing and relevant for me, because he was talking about the cause of addiction. And sometimes we treat addictions like a problem or an illness we need to heal from, or that we need to change that. And he refers that to addiction as a symptom which comes from a trauma or an emotional pain that we run away from with or through the addiction to avoid feeling that emotion that we cannot deal with. And so some very important clues could be to deal with that pain so that the addiction is not so thriving, not so, it doesn't drive you so much. And I can talk about my personal experience with sugar and carbohydrates. And it's very recent. I'm actually in a kind of detox diet, no carbs at all. And that's very interesting, because when I went to my nutritionist, I was talking to her and saying, I feel like possessed, like I don't have my own will. And I find myself at night eating some things that I know for sure that I shouldn't be eating, that are not healthy, that they're not good for me. But I don't know, not even how or why. I go to the freezer and I start the fridge and I start eating those things. Not like compulsively, it's not like I have a food disorder, but really like not being aware, not being able to choose, not being able to decide, I don't want to eat that. And so I went to her and I told her, I don't want you to tell me what I shouldn't be doing, because I already know it. The problem is that I'm addicted to it and I don't know how to stop. So my problem is not like I shouldn't eat bread and sugar and processed food. I know that, but I can't stop. And then she started to explain to me how the bacteria in our digestive system really possess your will, because they go into the liver and into the brain and different organs, and they start segregating some hormones and substances that actually make you eat what is good for them. So you're really being manipulated emotionally by the bacteria in your digestive system. So when she said that, it was like a revelation for me, because suddenly I felt like I was kind of being completely surrounded by these things inside my belly, and I was being possessed. And there was a moment when she explained that there are good bacteria and bad bacteria, and these bad bacteria that are supposed to do certain things, but when you eat too many carbs, they just expand and possess your body. So these bacteria that should be controlled are taking over, and that is making you addicted to all the things that are bad for you and good for them. So it was like deciding who I wanted to be and how could I get back my power. So when I was feeling like I was possessed by these organisms, I had to decide if I wanted my will back. And I had to go through a process of letting go of the habit. But when I knew what I was doing and I knew that my thing was not really sugar and eating or not eating, but it was my will and who I wanted to be, and that there was this other will coming and taking over, and that was the point, that changed the game for me. because it was not like the enemy is sugar, but it's really I want to choose who I am and who I want to be, and not being driven by all these other things. So it was a very empowering process, and that made easier all the how do you call it? That process when you're um, in need of another dose and you're not getting it. So it's like that phase when you're out of it, out of the
Withdrawal.
substance, withdrawal.
Withdrawal.
Exactly. So that made it easier, the withdrawal, because it was like now I know what I'm doing and I have my will and I know how to focus on the thing. So it was very helpful. And one other thing that I wanted to share was that I watched a video the other day. He was sharing about the confusion between pleasure and happiness and how we have been taught to search for pleasure in a short term and in a way that really doesn't fulfill us, but it makes us consume things searching for that pleasure instead of really being able to be happy and being content with things that are more natural to us. And so he also talked about serotonin and dopamine and how those two substances are so different. One creates tolerance, which means that you need a bigger dose and a bigger dose. That's dopamine. And then there's serotonin, which is actually natural and relaxes the body and opens things up. So it's such a difference when you start searching for happiness instead of searching for the next high. And that is very important also, I think, in my case or in my experience with sugar. I can say now that I have been 2 months already without eating it. And even if I have
Congratulations.
and I have eaten it a few times, but the good thing is that I have been able to stop again. So, and then stay without eating it for another 2 or 3 weeks. So I feel like I've got my will back, and
Yes.
I know if I want to go out and do it once or twice, I have the power to do it and then go back to not eating it. So I think
Bravo.
it's a major point. So
Good.
good. I'm very
Ah,
glad.
good. Well done.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
possible. It's possible. It was
Well,
good.
I'll go next, and I just have a short one. My big thing is I recently quit smoking, as you girls know. Yeah, which was something I've been wanting to do for a long time, but my partner smokes all the time, and living on a boat, it's stressful. So, we would always, there was always a lot of reasons to go smoke a cigarette, right? And even sometimes celebrating something, you smoke a cigarette. Um, but then when he had his eye surgery, we had to get off the boat. And I also got very sick. And with a respiratory infection, and I learned through that respiratory infection what it was going to feel like when you smoke your whole life and you get COPD. I don't know if you guys know what that COPD is, but it's basically your lungs start shutting down and you can't breathe. It's an effort to like go for a walk or do anything. And I got to experience that. And that was a huge wake up call for me. Um, and the fact that we got off the boat was great. And Thomas had to be face down because he was in after his surgery of the retina detachment. So he wasn't smoking cigarettes. So it was the perfect opportunity for me to do it. Because I think that's one of the hardest things with addictions is you have to get away from it's all the habits, all of the programming that you have in your brain for the addiction of, oh, this is the time I have a cigarette, or, oh, I've done this good thing and now I'm going to take a break and go have a cigarette, and get outside for a few minutes, that kind of thing. So a friend of mine recommended this book, and it's called Alan Carr's Easy Way. It's called The Easy Way to Quit Smoking. And this is, I have to say, an incredible book. And one thing I love about it, the whole thing is that when it comes to smoking, especially, I think things like sugar and alcohol addictions are different, but the addiction to nicotine is actually not that big of a deal. That you don't have as much withdrawal, so to speak, and you can overcome that addiction to nicotine very easily. He calls the nicotine the little monster, but and what the big monster is the whole psychological aspect of, oh, and now's the time where I go smoke a cigarette, or you're in a social situation and I want to smoke a cigarette. And there's all these reasons that you have that you want to smoke a cigarette. You think it relaxes you, you think it makes you concentrate better, but it doesn't. So that's what this whole book is about, is conquering the big monster. And then you will never want another cigarette. Yeah, and it's all up here. So I highly recommend that if you know of anyone who does smoke or vape, that it's called The Easy Way, because he's like, you are not gonna want another cigarette, and if you try and use willpower for smoking, you're still always going to want to have a cigarette because you haven't attacked the big monster. You have to attack the big monster first. So that's my 2 cents on addiction. And I'm proud of myself, and I'm going to keep going.
So are we.
Being a non-smoker.
Yeah, I think that what you said about conquering the big monster, I think that's the main thing in any case. I think that the habits, the mind, the beliefs, the wrong beliefs that are associated, like for example, with like I am going to avoid feeling like this with this substance because that is better than the feeling that I want to run away. That is basically an emotional issue, and thinking that you don't have the tools to overcome that, or getting away from the danger or from the pain that caused it, or from the environment or the kind of relationships, not having tools to actually change that. So it's easier to avoid it by having like getting the substance instead of transforming all of that inner work. And I think that is the most important thing. For example, in my case, it was not actually not having sugar. It was who I want to be, and how was it, and what was the purpose of all that. And I think this is really the main point with any kind of addiction. Whether you know it or not, I think you need to, as you were saying, overcome the big monster.
True. And I would also like to share a story. It's not a story, it's what we've lived. There's someone very dear to me in my life. He had an addiction to alcohol since years. Like you're born, and sometimes because of your surroundings or peer pressure, or you idolize someone who drinks, and you just pick up the habit of drinking. It becomes habit, and then it's years and years and years, and you don't even know you're in it. And then the main important point is realization, when you're aware that it's affecting your life. And once you realize, then comes a will of, okay, perhaps I don't want this anymore. Yeah. And it's becoming more of a problem rather than something that I'm enjoying. So this person said to me that once a person admits that I have an addiction, half the battle is won. Yeah, because you're admitting to yourself, yeah. And then you reach out for help. So I saw this person reach out first internally for help to the loved one, saying, I really want to quit, but I can't. I don't know how to. I try. Believe me, I'm trying really hard, right? And then from the inner circle, it started reaching out to the outer circle, to the friends and close family friends. Like, I really do want to, but just don't know how to. I think that's key when you reach out for help. Because ask and you shall receive. So then the friends sort of brought to our knowledge the existence of AA, Alcoholic Anonymous. Not only that, the existence of Al-Anon, because when you're seeking help, you can just go out and start looking, because there are so many organizations and support groups which are existing within your city, which you won't even know. And nowadays, everything's available online. And they don't even cost, they're free of charge. You see, you just go, and there are supportive groups discussing how they overcame their addiction, similar addiction. And then once you go there, you realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm not alone in this. there are millions like me who are experiencing what I'm experiencing. And sometimes you realize, oh my God, the stories are worse than mine. All right. So Alcoholic Anonymous helped this person come out of this addiction. Yes, the road was not tough because there were relapses, going back in and coming out again. But somehow, what's important is not only for the person who wants to get rid of an addiction, but also the family members to be supportive and educate themselves about that addiction and how they can help this person come out of it. Because they are taught, the families are taught, this person, addiction is a sickness. It's like a sickness, and you're the victim because the family and other people just outcast this person. He's just an addicted person. He's just wasting money, or whatever. He's just wasting his life. He's wasting. But no, there is more to it than just that. The support groups, they educate you and they show you, no, he's a victim. He needs your support and help. It's a sickness. It's a disease. There's nothing wrong with the person. The person is as beautiful as God made him. Then slowly, they teach you tools. When you go attend these meetings, they give you tools to how to take one day at a time, one day at a time. And so it was Alcoholic Anonymous. And for the family members or the partners, it was Al-Anon, I think, Al-Anon. So together you come together and then you help the person come out of the addiction. And can you believe it? This person is sober now for more than 25 years, and
Wow.
I remember the days when he used to cry and plead to God, help me, I want this to end. And now it's like, oh yeah, that was also a life when I was actually addicted to this. So it is possible. The only main important thing is you have to reach out for help, because you don't have to be ashamed of it or be shy of it, because each one of us have got something or the other. We're all human beings and we're all here learning from trial and error, right? But the main thing is just to reach out for help, and help arrives. And then it's up to you. You take one thing at a time. So the one thing what I saw that they learned was, for now I will not drink. Just for today I will be sober. Just right now, this moment, I'm not going to touch what I'm not supposed to touch. So that's one step at a time, and then voila.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a very amazing program, which is the 12 steps. And I think that program is so good for anything in life, not just like addictions, but also for toxic ways of having relationships or emotional issues that you can have. It's really powerful. So really very interesting to look at.
So much to learn.
So much to learn, yeah. And definitely there, as we started talking, there are many ways of being addicted to different things. So everything that you kind of depend on and that takes over your consciousness and your power is something to like be aware of and regain it, because regain your sovereignty, regain your power. I think that's really, really important.
Regain your life and your people and your connections. You regain, that whole thing. It's not just regaining, it affects everybody, like you said, Palak,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that thing about relationships, it was also very interesting what you said, Palak, that the person is sometimes outcasted, or sometimes like there's a kind of invitation from the surrounding to actually go on with the habit. And in a systemic point of view, this person is usually the symptom of the whole system. So it's bringing out something that is not working in the system. There's an ancestor or some pattern that is being repeated, or something that is happening in the system that this person is manifesting. So it's something that it's a healing for all the family or all the context or the friends or the system. So it's really important to also assume our part and help that person, instead of saying you should do what you have been doing or feeling bad because that person is changing. So it's also very important to have support when you are with somebody that is going through the process.
Yeah. if you know of someone who has any sort of addiction, or if you have any addiction, now you know all you need to do is be supportive of the other person, help him out, because help is available everywhere. You can help yourself out as well. There are lots of organizations available online as well as you'll be surprised in your own city. Just don't sit with it, reach out, talk to people, and I'm sure you're going to find help. Until then, like, share, and subscribe.